Welcome back to another episode of our Eagle Perspective podcast. I'm Mike Siciliano, Dean of Students of the Upper School. I am joined today by my friend, and maybe more importantly, my boss, Mr. Matt Hannan, our upper school principal. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be with you.
So I'm a little nervous. You know, normally it's like I get to do whatever I want, but now it's like my boss is here. Yeah. I have to be impressive today or else, you know, so.
You're just naturally impressive, so it's okay.
You're super kind. I'm supposed to be kissing up to you.
Well,
that's the way this works.
Okay.
So we're going to talk today about parenting.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really excited to talk with you about this. So just so people know, you have two Santa Fe alum.
I do.
One who just graduated college.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And another one who just finished freshman year.
Yeah. So I've got two daughters, both alum of Santa Fe. One, my oldest graduated from Santa Fe in 2018. She just graduated from George Fox University, so college grad now. Mm-hmm. And one who graduated in 2021 from Santa Fe. She's going to going into her second year at Baylor. And so, yeah, we're empty nesters.
And I can speak that they are both fantastic human beings and a lot of fun.
So
as people who watch us before know, I have two little ones.
Yeah.
So we're on like the opposite end of the parenting journey. So I'm excited to get into that a little bit. First, since somehow this is the first time we've had you on the podcast, tell us a little bit about how you came to Santa Fe.
I was in the public schools for about a decade. I was at Poway High School for about 10 years, and I was a teacher there. Started as an English teacher, then I became the ASB director, and then I was promoted to an assistant principal, where I was in the admin team, and then got a random email from the director of HR at Santa Fe. The school was looking for a high school principal at the time, went a year without a principal, and their process, the HR director went to public school websites, and whoever was listed second, that's who got the email. And I happened to be listed second, but that was God moving in really cool ways. And my wife and I, our girls were at Maranatha, and we were talking about how cool it might be to be at a Christian school, in a small school, because I grew up in a small town, and that began the conversation. And literally 2 weeks after that conversation, I got the email from Santa Fe and walked into it really not expecting to get the job. I was young. I was not an experienced principal at the time, but the school took a gamble on me, or as I like to say, finally reached the end of the list and said yes. But that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I just finished my 14th year as the high school principal.
So, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say it's worked out well.
Thank you.
And we're going to get into maybe even what you do differently now than what you did in year one, and how parenting has changed that. You mentioned you were an ASB director. Yeah. Is this a bad time to bring up the time where you lost a kid in Europe? Is that a bad story?
Well, that's all part of the.
That's part of the learning.
You learn. Yes.
Okay, all right.
I've
good.
never lost one since.
Okay, all right. So it's a story of redemption, and
Absolutely.
you did find that kid.
We
just
did.
to be
Yes.
clear.
Yes, we did. Just in the nick of time. Yeah.
So when you started here, you had little ones, and you've been on a parenting journey since, right? As you've kind of alongside your journey as a principal, you've gone from having little kids to big kids. Yeah. So what have been some key milestones for you on that parenting journey?
Sure. I think really schools kind of help to frame the chapters of our kids' lives. There's lower school, and then middle school is its own thing, and then high school is its own thing. So for me personally, as my girls came into junior high, there's that transition. They're getting older. They have their own ideas. They're wanting to be themselves and starting to explore that. But they're just weird at that time as well. And junior hires are strange. I have so much respect and admiration for the middle school faculty, staff, administrators.
Yeah, that's our nice way of saying thank God we're not.
Thank God I'm not there, because I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But then in high school they begin to shift, and where I see it happen. It happened with my own kids as well. That sophomore year is really just a pivotal year, but you get about halfway through it and you realize, as a teacher, as an administrator, and as a parent, if you're paying attention, about midway through the sophomore year, they become young adults and they have like real thoughts on things, and you can engage them in conversations about spirituality, about their faith, about life, about literature, about things that you may not have done so before, because there's this transition that happens in them, and for most, and I'm speaking in broad terms, but it's it's amazing to watch kids go through. So that junior high transition is a strange time, but then about halfway through high school as well, because you start realizing that the time you have left with them is actually much shorter than what you had before.
Yeah.
And so it can help to clarify what are those things that are really important to me as a dad, for us as parents, to make sure we're instilling in our kids.
So let's talk about kind of both ends of that
Yeah.
of that journey. What are some pieces or some things that you think were really important for you as a parent
Yeah.
on that kind of first half of the journey when
Sure.
the kids are small?
Yeah.
Some things that you would tell a parent, these are one or two things that absolutely were hugely critical
Sure.
for us.
Yeah. First and foremost, that you and your wife are the team and you're on the same team. And that as you are together, that is the most critical piece, that you both are on the same page, you're on the same team, and you're on the team helping to raise these kiddos. And if you are united, that united front is a really, really big deal, especially in the formative years. And those can be little trip up things, little speed bump things, like what time do they go to bed? Do they stay in bed? Do they sleep here? Do they sleep there? Like, those are important things to actually be on the same page, because if you're not aligned, the kids will know it. They're way smarter. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm laughing because we've this week had a bedtime discussion, my wife and I, and my 7-year-old is like, she knows, like she can tell when the conversation shifts and whose team she's going to be on real quick if we're not aligned.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, so that's one.
So that's one. And then secondly, I would say just modeling for them. Really, they're in such a young age, elementary school. Really, you're the boss. It is what it is, and there are times when you don't have to explain everything, and that may sound weird and counterintuitive, but it's okay for kids to know there are limits to these things, and there are yeses and nos, because that's when you're forming that. You're forming that sense of respect, and there is authority, and there's an order to things, and that grows, that changes. You don't stay there, but in that younger time, it's okay for you to say, "I'm the dad," and the answer is no, and it's okay.
Can you think of a specific time or instance where that played out for you guys? Yeah. Not to put your two kids on the spot.
I don't know that I have a specific piece, but it's more, which comes to my third point, and I'll get to it.
Okay.
It's more of this long-term piece. Like, that my third point is, remember that this whole thing is really a long marathon. It's not an immediate sprint right now. And so you're going to make lots of mistakes, and there's no one right silver bullet magic thing that happens. It's the long game. What kind of individuals do you want to have around you when they are 15, 18, 21? Like, what's the long game? And in the short game, have the structure and pieces in place that help you build towards that. But I can't think of a specific, like, I had to say no. But there was a consistency to it, to where our girls, one of the things that I just couldn't abide was just the whining need. I need. No, like, you don't need anything.
Yeah, I mean, I learned that pretty quick working for you.
Well, good. And that's see, I'm consistent, right? Because I want you to be around when you're much older.
Thank you. See, I appreciate that.
There's a game plan to this, but in the moment, there's consistency with here's the boundaries. Here's where we're going to live. And I'm not going to waver from those pieces, because I love you enough to give you boundaries, right? That's the piece. And that's the weird, even in the gospel, God loves us so much that he gives us boundaries. Like, if you look at, like, even the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, sure.
Those
even in the Garden of Eden,
there was boundaries. Why? Because he loves you enough. He knows what's best for you. If you do this is actually going to give you the best possible outcome, not because I'm mean and rude to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. I'm not trying to squelch your fun. I'm actually trying to give you boundaries, because if you live within this, it's an amazing life. It's what we were created to do. And so I think if we take that in our parenting as well, that especially when they're young, have those boundaries, because those boundaries actually continue then further. But there's a lot of play within it.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
They get to enjoy and play, but there's still boundaries and expectations.
Right.
And if I do that in the long run, to say, I'm going to be consistent, we're going to be on the same team, and we're going to be consistent through it, it just helps provide for their growth, the opportunity to grow within the parameters and ultimately for their best interests.
Yeah. Okay. So as they got older, answer. No, it's okay. Yeah, it's a great answer. It's a great answer, boss. It was perfect. So
thank you.
As they get older, right? And you mentioned kind of that transition to a different phase. And I've been lucky. I've heard you talk about this a little bit, but what changed for you? Yeah. And was there a moment or a time where you sort of realized, hey, this has to change?
Sure. So I'll be candid, and I will be transparent with my.
Let's be candid. You make fun of me because I use the word candid a lot.
Candid, yes.
Yeah.
So that's why that's funny.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a moment. So I'll share a story with my oldest, and when she was coming through junior high and high school, and she got into the high school, she kind of had the two pieces that were against her. One, she had parents who had never done this before, so we don't know what the heck we're doing. Number two, she had the principal as her dad, and my role as the principal would often bleed into my role as my dad. And I had a hard time taking that hat off and seeing her as the individual that she was. And I just kind of I'd stay in the mode of principal. Yeah. And so I was very directive with her and very specific. I wouldn't allow her to engage in conversations. It was I blew off her. What I was talking about before, that magic of the sophomore year, I wasn't paying attention to it with my own kid. It was really interesting. My wife, who is the best gift that the Lord has ever given to me, and truly mean that. Today is our 26th wedding anniversary. Today.
Happy anniversary.
Thanks.
That's
I'll just leave that in.
Yeah.
But my wife saw what was happening, and she saw that our relationship was not in a good place, and that I was just shutting my oldest down on a pretty regular basis, and that there was friction and tension, and we were growing apart. And she called me on it, but it was one of those pride things where I wouldn't hear it. Like, you don't know. Like,
I work with kids for a living.
I know what
I think I know.
That's exactly it. And that pride, that ego was on full display.
Yeah.
And then I thankfully was blessed to be able to take her to JH Ranch, and I'll plug that program right now.
Yeah.
The JH Outback. It's something that
you've brought to our high school.
We've brought to the high school, and I'm a huge believer in it because it really does talk about the transitioning role of the parent. And we went up to the ranch, and I got slapped in the face with, I'm still stuck in the mode of I'm just telling her what to do rather than coaching her on how she should be doing it. And it was a fascinating realization. The first phone call that I could make, there's no cell service up there, but once it happened, I called my wife and said, you were right. Like, that was because she was spot on. But that week allowed me to see what I had been doing and how I needed to grow in my parenting, that she was not a little kid anymore who needed to be told what to do. She was an emerging young adult who needed to be coached on how to do things. It didn't mean that I just let her go. I mean, there's still there's a playing field, right? She got to play within the field, but she had to play the game. She had to be in the game. And every so often, I had to pull her out of the game.
Yeah.
And that was true. Like, and I still have that authority because she's still my child, and I'm still the dad. And I still have that role, but it changed the role. It wasn't me telling her, it was me alongside her, like as a coach, and coaching in her ear, saying, okay, now do this, and put her back in. And that had that not happened, I can't imagine where we would be today. And even now, as she's gone through college, that role has changed even again.
Sure.
Now she's an adult. And that's the scary piece that a lot of us really don't think about. When they leave our house at 18 and they go to college, they are gone.
Yeah.
Like, gone. I can't control what they do, where they go, who they hang out with.
You have no idea what's happening.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And unless I really have kind of some sickness where I'm tracking them on my 360, which I don't want to do, like, I have to have faith and confidence in the work that we've done in the foundational stuff, that when she goes, she's going to make good decisions and she's going to do what she needs to. And if she doesn't and she trips and falls, there's enough relationship where she can come back to us and say, I need your help, or I made a mistake.
So is it fair to say you have to allow some level of failure when they're a teenager in their high school years, right? Which goes against everything in our instinct as parents. But, they have to, it's better that they go through some of that here when you can coach them, right there.
That's exactly
than at age 18, they're off on their own and they're doing it for the first time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And ultimately big decisions about, life and temptations and things, that's where the foundational stuff comes in, so that hopefully you've built a foundation that they are making those decisions because they own it. It's they know the difference between right and wrong. And they're gonna make decisions because of who they are, because of their relationship with Christ, not because of rules and regulations, but ultimately, again, those parameters that the Lord has set for us, where we actually get to live our freedom within. It's that paradoxical thing, but it's an amazing thing.
Yeah. So can you think of something that maybe freshman, sophomore year you did with Mandy that then junior, senior year you had to force yourself to be like, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah. It was really more in our communication, to where I was just telling her what to do, almost on a daily basis. Get this, get that. Have you done this? Have you done that? And realizing these are not my classes. These are not my books. These are not my thing. Like, why am I telling you to do this? And so I really had to shift my communication style to where she has to own what she has to own. And I'm going to stop telling her what to do. And if there's an issue or a problem that I see, I may have to intervene and say, hey, I'm seeing this.
Yeah. Tell me about what's going on.
Tell me about what's going on. But it's I stopped telling her what to do. And then ultimately was able to coach, but not tell her. And so that shifted. Instead of me telling her what to do, she had to own it. And I would ask questions. And then I got better at just simply listening. I think that's one of the pieces that, as I had to stop talking at her and just listen to her. Yeah. And I will say, this is now 6-7 years. I got probably the greatest compliment from my youngest about a week ago, where she had shared something with us that was a disappointing thing. Something happened and she didn't get what she wanted, and she was disappointed. And she said, and Dad, you just listened, and I really appreciated that. And I was so excited, because that's something I've been working on for a long time. Oh, for sure.
I'd look at my wife and be like, see, I can listen. Someone thinks I can listen, right?
Well, I did that as soon as we ended the conversation.
But
my change was stop telling her what to do and find ways to give her advice or to help her to navigate. Like, I don't want her to fall off the cliff, but if she trips and falls, that's okay. Like you said, making mistakes is okay. And so I think not necessarily a definitive, here's what it is, but the reality of I have to stop telling them much, because I can't keep controlling them. Again, there is that time, there's that point where they need to launch, right? Our goal is not to have our children with us forever. That should not be our goal. Our goal is to actually launch them into adulthood so that they can continue to do great things. And then we get to enjoy cheering them on as adults. And if we don't allow them the opportunity to expand, grow, make decisions, and then we're actually hindering that process. And that's not great. So that was the big change for me, was don't tell her what to do on a daily basis, because that's what I was doing. Right. But rather watch, observe, listen, and be there to give advice and to help her navigate things that were bigger than, what are your grades? What are they like? We reached a point where we don't check grades. We don't.
So a lot of parents are blown away by that concept. I will say, like, it seems very foreign. And well, what do you mean I'm not going to check grades every week or every 2 weeks? But for you guys, that worked pretty well as far as allowing them to own their own academics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, and you would see the progress report, or
you get it. But and it's fascinating because I'm on the inside. Like, I could check her grades anytime.
Yeah.
Like, more than the progress report. We stopped checking our kids' grades about junior high-ish, and especially in high school, because ultimately they're their grades. This is the beauty of not being controlling and demanding from them. It's ultimately getting to hear from them. What are you hoping to do? What are your goals? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to do that? Like, help me understand where you're at. And then how can I help you to get there? And some of our kids may say, I need you to check on my grades because that's an accountability piece. Okay.
Yeah.
But they've invited you into that rather than I'm just constantly looking. For us, it was really a conversation with them with, these are your goals. This is what you want to do. They're your grades. It's your work. if I see you not doing your work, I may say something to you, but ultimately I'm not checking your grades because you have to own that. Now, if the progress report comes out,
if you got 6 Fs, okay, we're going to need to have
yeah, for sure. But the reality is that generally doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, let's start there, and especially here, if a kid has 6 Fs 4 weeks in, you've already been told.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but they have to have that sense of ownership to it, and it doesn't help them to move towards that level of independence if I'm simply watching over their shoulder all the time.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, I'm just the nag. And what do we do with nagging voices?
Tune them out
as fast as we can.
Yeah.
And that again, I'll go back to what's the long-term piece. High school is such a small blip of time compared to the rest of the life that you get to have with your kids, Lord willing. And so if I become the nag and the voice that they tune out in these 4 years, what does that actually set up for the rest of our life? And I don't want to be a nagging voice to them. I want to be a voice to them that is guiding, that is truthful, that is a safe harbor, that allows them to know they are loved and supported and cheered on. That's what I want my voice to be for them. And that's where it becomes really hard, because in the immediate, I want to freak out over this B or that assignment, this, that. That's our controlling piece. But again, if I lift up my eyes and I look at the long-term piece, I want the long-term relationship, because they will be in that far longer than anything else that we've done. Yeah. And even as little kids, if we can have our eye on what kind of adults do I want to raise, that question, if you and your wife were to actually list out, here are the qualities that I want my kids to have by the time they graduate from high school, that changes our perspective real fast.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking about, do my actions match up with that?
Right.
Am I actually building a person that does that, or am I controlling?
Right. Well, but you're at an age, your girls are at an age
it's a little more
okay. Yeah. But what's amazing for you, the thing that I didn't have at the time was I wasn't quite sure how to do that or where to go. But you're hearing this, you get to see things, you have people around you that you might be able to transition with your kid better, easier than somebody else, because you've had the benefit of actually seeing those kinds of things, right? Which is amazing. It's great. You hopefully won't make the same mistakes that I've made,
and I'll probably just make different ones. But
you might. But that's the beauty of it. And here's the other beauty of, I will say, from a parenting piece. Like I said this earlier, none of us know what we're doing. Like our first child is the grand experiment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no manual. There's no degree. Right. You didn't go to college for this. All of a sudden, you have this kid that you're responsible for, that by the end of their time with you really should be a productive member of society.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
But none of us know how to do this. Yeah. And so in this grand experiment, I think one of the shameful things that we have today with social media and everything else, everything's just this picture perfect. Oh, my kid is this. My kid.
Look how great I'm doing it.
Amazing. The honest reality is, if we're honest with each other, we don't know what we're doing. We're going to make a lot of mistakes. And it would be better for us to actually share that and be in community. Like, I tell stories with families and people and with you. Mm-hmm. Like, I tell you about my kids' foibles. I tell you where I fall short. Not because I love just throwing my kids under the bus, but it's because I'm not afraid or ashamed of the fact that they're making mistakes. And I'm looking for advice or help, or how do I do this? Because I don't have all the answers. Yeah. And if I share that and you share that, well, then we're actually raising better kids in community, because we're being honest with each other. Yeah. And I think that's a lost piece in today's social media world, that everything has to be perfect.
Yeah. So on that note, you're saying that summer between sophomore junior year for Mandy was that JH experience, and then the junior year was really a big turning point for you guys. Okay. Yeah. So it could actually have been that a couple of her teachers made such a big impact that year. I don't know who those people would have been, but
for sure her math teacher.
I think the history teacher could have been. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. The credit maybe should be shared. I don't know.
I will say, absolutely. No, and I mean that with all sincerity. Absolutely. The amazing thing is, as our kids get older, different voices will influence them. And who do you want influencing your kids? And for me, teachers who were the individuals that were teaching my kids was a really big deal. And that's something that is actually dear to my heart with all of our kids. Who we have on staff here is a really big deal.
So that's actually a great transition to a question that might seem like a hard question,
Okay.
but how has your principling changed from the start, right? Day one, you've got two young little girls, right? To now you have two kids that have come through. You've done all the teenage parenting things.
Yeah.
How are you a different principal now?
Yeah. I'm less surprised. Like I think I've matured in my understanding of kids and who they are and really what they're about, what they're trying to be. When I came on, I was very young, and I was inexperienced with raising my own teenagers. And now that I've gone through that process, I'm more empathetic. I definitely understand more of what they're doing, why they're doing, and whatnot. I'm also, I think, I'm less afraid of the mistakes. I think that's probably, I acknowledge the depravity that we all have, and we're all fallen, we're all sinners, and none of our kids are perfect, and they're gonna make mistakes. And so there's a beautiful thing in releasing that notion that we all have to be perfect, that we don't have to be. And,
or even maybe for you as the principal or us as a staff, if a kid messes up, oh man, we're doing something wrong. The kid messed up.
Yeah, there's freedom in acknowledging that we live in a fallen world. And so I think I'm less reactionary than what I was originally. And that's been a beautiful thing that I've been able to have the support of amazing teachers, of staff, of bosses that have allowed me to grow and mature as well. And so I think the last 14 years, I've learned a lot about kids, about adult interaction and the importance of that, and ultimately clarifying that even in high school, there is still a playing field, that we do have expectations. Yeah. And I like to say that wherever we set the expectations, they're going to meet it. So we can choose to set it here, and they'll meet it. Or we can choose to set it here, and they'll meet it. And actually, this is way more fun to do. Yeah. So having high expectations is totally fine, as long as we're willing to help go along the journey and recognize we might fall a little bit short, but we're going to keep cheering you on. Yeah. And so I think there's less. For me, I think as we get older, I think hopefully there's less of me and more of Christ, and there's less of my ego and more of Him. And if that's the case in my role, in my professional role, if there's less of me and my ego driving this and more of the heart of Christ of how does God see these kids and where do ultimately we want to get them to, that makes it's more fun. Than I think I'm having more fun than what I had before. Yeah. But it also has given me great insight into, I've walked the road of high school years, and I've gotten an amazing inside look at it, right? And that's a blessing. It really is a blessing.
Yeah. I mean, when a parent calls with a particular issue, it's probably easier for you to say, oh man, I remember feeling that way.
Totally.
Whereas before it might have been, why are you thinking about that?
What's wrong with you? Just, you know what? Early on it was, we'll just tell them what to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just tell them, and then certainly.
Why are you having this conversation? Just tell them. And then I realized, well, that was dumb advice. That was stupid.
Okay, one story so I get to hear you talk to parents quite a bit every year, different events, senior events, etc. And just to give parents out there some hope. I remember one year, a couple years ago, you shared about you were having a conversation, I think it was with Becca, and she said to you, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. And you were like, I'm actually the principal of the school. Like, if anybody knows what they're talking about, it's me. Right? So hope for all of the rest of us out there that's a common line.
It is. Yeah, it is.
And it gets better.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so 15 years. That's a long time for someone to be at an organization.
Yeah.
What's made you stay?
The people. I love the people that I get to work with. I really do. I'm enamored with the amazing work that our teachers do on a daily basis.
They're pretty incredible.
They are incredible. And it's more than just the content that they're pouring in. They are reflecting Christ and an authentic walk with Jesus to kids, and they continue to pour into kids. And I will say I'm the recipient of that, not as just the principal, but as a dad. Like, my girls have teachers who are still conversing with them, who are still having conversations. When Becca was gone her first semester, she met a friend who was this amazing person, but turned out to be an atheist. And she didn't call me to say, Dad, well, how do I? She called her former Bible teacher and said, how do I witness?
And you didn't even know until
no
months
idea.
later,
Yeah,
right?
months later. Yeah. And months later, I was talking to Becca. What? But my kids have teachers who are still involved in their lives. That's why I was saying earlier, like, how important it is to know who's with your kids. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because my voice isn't the only voice in their life. It should be a big one, if Lord willing, and if by God's grace, if it can be, that's a beautiful thing. If my voice can be a big part of who they are as adults, what a gift that I've been given. But it's not the only one. It can't be. But if I have other adults who are part of that, and I trust and know who those adults are, I mean, that's just an amazing gift, and that's what we've gotten. So what keeps me here? I love my job, to be honest with you. I love being, that's not to say it's not hard, because it's really hard. Yeah. And especially the last couple of years have been really hard.
Yeah.
And like, I look way older now than I did 3 years ago.
Nonsense.
It's true. But I love my job because I get to be part of kids' journeys, and I get to cheer them on. And there's a thing that it comes with the role of being the principal. People are just generally, you just
right. It's not the office you want to spend a lot of time
correct.
in. Generally.
Yeah, and which is one of the reasons I'm rarely in my office. I'm outside all the time. I'm on the quad. I'm at events. I'm at different, because I love cheering kids on. I love being part of that, and to be able to have relationships with kiddos. Like, really, we just finished graduation 2 weeks ago, and that's probably my favorite day of the entire year. Yeah. Because I really get to celebrate 110, 115 kids, and when I shake their hand and I give them their diploma, like, it's genuine when I say congratulations, because I know who they are. I know where they've come from. I've watched them grow over 4 years. When they were little, the ninth graders come in and they're scared little kids, and they become these amazing young adults, and I get to be part of that and see their journey. And so I love doing what I get to do. Yeah.
I'm going to guess that your second favorite day is the dodgeball tournament, because you were impressive this year. Like, the kids afterwards were like, wow, Mr. Hannan, he's got some dodgeball game.
Thank you very much.
So, really good.
I've got some hidden talents.
And then on the principal thing, I'm just going to throw out there, and maybe this is my bias now as a newer administrator. Sure. Can we get a movie where the principal is not just a total dolt? Like, yes, is it possible that someone could make a movie about a school where the principal is like a quasi-likable character?
That would be amazing.
Right?
Because right now,
it's always like the teacher's amazing, which is great, but then the principal's like the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, do we have to be villains all the time?
I would like to not be.
Okay. Yeah. All right, we'll start a movement.
I come from a family of all firefighters.
Right.
I'm the only non-firefighter. Mm-hmm. All of my brothers, my dad, they're all firefighters. And my brother's vision of what I do is Edward R. Rooney from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which he's the dean of students.
Oh, well, you don't need to clear that up. I think people think of him as a principal.
They do, but that is their view of it, and that's what they think I do. And it's just like, are you kidding?
Yeah, we drive to kids' houses and catch them, skipping school.
That would be great. Yeah.
All right, so to kind of wrap up, just given everything that we've talked about so far, which I think there's tons of people who are relating to a bunch of it. I know in my head I'm like keeping a mental list. So 2 or 3 big takeaways, just sort of thoughts that anyone watching could leave with, that through your lens, both as a principal who's worked with parents and been around teenagers and as a parent yourself, what are 2 or 3 thoughts that people can walk away with?
Sure. One, I think as your kids go through high school, it is really important that you are modeling what it means to walk with Christ, because they're watching and they're learning from you, and they're at an age where their relationship with Christ is becoming their own, and it's okay to have those conversations with them and to say, and to be honest with them and say, I'm struggling with this, or this is hard, because life isn't just rainbows and unicorn.
Yeah.
It's
hard. It is to my 4-year-old, but it won't be.
But it won't be.
Yeah.
And we have struggles in our own faith, in our own walk. We hit hard things. This past year with death in our community.
Yeah.
That was a hard season. That I didn't walk through that going, well, everything's great.
Right.
I really was kind of asking the Lord, what is going on here? I was having real honest conversations with the Lord, and I shared that with my kids. And I said, I need you to pray for me. Would you be willing to, there again, it's that transition piece, that relationship piece. So model what it means to walk with Christ in a genuine way, that it's not just all perfect all the time. Yeah. Secondly, I would say, as you model that piece, it's okay to admit when you've done something wrong with your kids. And apologize for it. Again, you want the relationship to be one that's honest and transparent. I've made mistakes with my girls. I've said things that I shouldn't have said. I've caused tears. I've caused heartache, and I've had to go apologize to them and say, I'm really sorry that I've done this, and I'm okay to admit I didn't do this right, or I'm not sure what to do. It's okay to do that. And again, back to what I said originally, my wife and I on the same page. There are times when you get stuck with things, it's okay for us to go, kid, I need you to go, because we need to figure this out. Yeah. And they go into another room, and my wife and I look here and go, I don't know what to do with this. That's okay. But there are times when I will do things. I've apologized to my kids, and because there are times when I'm wrong, and it's okay to do that. Again, it's modeling for them behavior that I want them to exhibit. Have family dinner as much as you possibly can. Life becomes busy, and I recognize that. And I even as I say that out loud, I recognize I didn't even do that enough as much as I would have wanted to. This job requires a lot, but on a pretty regular basis, we had dinner together. And if you make that a priority, it actually pays huge dividends down the road. It's a big deal. There will always be something that can take you away from that. But if you make it a priority that we're going to have dinner, it's the exception that we don't. That actually is a big deal as you navigate through high school. Yeah. And then, I had another one. If as your kid navigates through high school, if you can make it a point to maybe once a month or every other month, have time with them, just you and them, where you don't talk about school. That's the only rule. And find out what's your kid's favorite thing. If it's ice cream, go for ice cream. If it's boba, or if it's breakfast, my favorite thing is breakfast, and my girls learned that early on. So when we go to breakfast, it's a big deal. But we have conversations there that are not having anything to do with grades, that aren't having anything to do with college apps, that are I've built in intentional time with them because I want to get to know them. They are complex individuals who I have the blessing of being able to be part of their life and helping to shepherd where they're eventually going to go. And I get to know them. And so if I can have conversations with them that are outside of school stuff, it actually makes a big deal. So if you can kind of intentionally plot out, hey, on this Saturday morning, the second Saturday of the month, that's our time. We're going to go get tea together, or we're going to go walk the beach together. Whatever it is that speaks to them, do that. But it really is just the important time of scheduling time to get to know your kid, because they're changing a lot. And as you get to know them more, it actually helps you to better understand where they're going.
Well, thank you for sharing your insights. And thank you for, honestly, 15 years of incredible leadership.
Well, thank you.
Here at Santa Fe.
I appreciate that.
And I know I speak for a lot of us. We are so glad that you lead us in the upper school. Thanks. And we're really grateful for you.
Thanks.
So thanks for being on today.
Thank you for having me. This was a joy.
And thanks to those of you at home or wherever you are for watching or listening. If this is your first time, just a reminder, we have other podcasts. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or elsewhere podcasts are found. You can always watch our video podcasts on YouTube. We look forward to being back with you again soon.